know what I found out? So, when you have a high-level character, or rather when you make a high-level character, now let's say, for example, if let's say you make a new character, and then you use a boost to get them up to speed, the game will go ahead and do a few things for you. One of those things is it will give you all of the flight locations, like, on everything up to that point. Every flight location in the Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor, Outland, Draenor, all of that. It'll just give them to you. With the Demon Hunter, it's kind of different because, well, you start this character at level 98 without need of a boost. And so, I realized I had none of the flight locations here. I actually had to fly down, like, to Shattrath City. Yeah. And then manually fly over to get these flight locations. In order for us to set this up. But we are here. We are at the Black Temple, and what happened over here? Huh. You know, it's showing this text in my chat box, and yet I have no idea where it's coming from. Because apparently Akama, Maiev, Illidan, they were all right here. And I'm like, where are they? Where's this dialogue happening? Apparently someone must have, like, triggered an event or something, because this was not here, like, when I left my character here before. Plus, I'm seeing a number of other players here. But anyway, the point I was making was that, I had to come here on my own with my Demon Hunter. And why am I doing this with my Demon Hunter? Well, for one thing, we're facing Illidan, and I thought, why would I not use my Demon Hunter for this? It just makes so much sense. Plus, there is a loot drop in this raid that many people know about that I absolutely want for my Demon Hunter. And it's these bad boys right here. Illidan's very weapons, the Warglaives of Azzinoth. These are legendary weapons, and they have about as much of a drop rate as Kael'thas's Alar mount, as I mentioned in the previous video. So you can imagine my chances of actually getting one of these, not even let alone both, just one, to drop are not good. Now, of course, currently, you know, there's no point in me actually equipping and using these weapons compared to what I already have. But you can unlock them as a transmog, and oh my goodness, would I love to have these as a transmog for my Demon Hunter, considering that he uses Warglaives. So, I have my fingers crossed that maybe we'll get really lucky. Plus, there's also a lot of other really cool stuff. There's a number of other pets that I could get to drop here, plus some other really interesting purple level items for transmog for my Demon Hunter. So this little doorway right here, this little broken crack in the wall, is actually the entrance here, and oh my goodness. Hello. Wait, why does this image look odd? Why does he look like an ogre? I don't know, whatever. You know what, let's just go inside. So, I will, you know, there are some things, I guess, to say about this raid, that I have learned about and found out. I obviously can't, you know, as I mentioned in my intro video, I'm not going to be able to talk about these from a, like, personal perspective. It's not like I actually was, you know, around when these were, like, the latest thing. But in retrospective, in hindsight, plus also hearing from other people and such, as well as some other information. There's actually something about this raid that, hold on. Okay. I wasn't sure if there was anything important there. You know, the thing about Burning Crusade is kind of interesting because I actually found out something about how this expansion was developed that really irritates me. Where is this first boss? Up here. Okay. High Warlord Nagentis. So you guys remember how Illidan was in Warcraft 3? If you don't, be sure to head on over to my playthroughs of Warcraft 3 Chaos and the Frozen Throne if you want to get a better idea as to how Illidan's character was when we really get to know him and meet him. So, knowing all that from that game and how he was, I found it rather odd that in this expansion he was kind of turned into just a straight-up villain.
I don't have a target.
You know, they were talking about things about what Illidan has done or did, like he was like the most evil thing ever. And I'm like, are we talking about the same Illidan from Warcraft 3? Because that's certainly not the Illidan that I remember. Ooh, oh, it's a craft thing. Ooh. And it always bothered me, why he was kind of made this way in this expansion. In this expansion, he went from being one of the more interesting, complex, deep characters that Warcraft has ever had to a mustache-twirling, you know, villain. And it just made no sense. Well, hold on.
You will die in the name of Lady Vash.
Oh, you mean who I already took down?
I need a target.
Okay. I want to point out a couple things just now, because I know you probably have questions. Number one, I actually have added a couple of mods since the last video. One of them being big wigs and little wigs. And the reason for that was I was trying out another raid last night, and there was this one fight that was infuriating. And I found out that this mod could actually help me. In case you're curious, it's the raid was Dragon Soul. I'm sure you know what I'm referring to now. But I've also got another mod. I don't know which one it is. But hold on, let me see how this looks. Oh, that looks cool. Oh yeah. But I don't know which mod it is I have, but I just love the fact that after that it actually did the Final Fantasy Battle Victory song. I've just always loved that. Who doesn't love the Final Fantasy Victory song? Who doesn't love that, right? I don't know which mod does that I have, but boy, am I happy it does. I'm so happy I have that. That was really great. But that's why you also saw that thing there about him using something called Berserk in 8 minutes. Because it's part of that mod that's supposed to help me know about the strategies and the timings of the bosses. Again, it was for a specific boss in the Dragon Soul raid that I added this. But hey, this seems like a pretty great mod, so I'll probably just have this on by default now, just for whenever we do the rest of these. Getting back to what I was saying. Yeah, it bothered me so much at how much they mistreated Illidan's character, but I found out why. So, in the early, during the time that this expansion was being developed and worked on, so, to give you guys an idea of how this worked back then, WoW had a pretty decent-sized team to work on. Well, sort of. And, you guys know that back then, Chris Metzen was pretty much running the show when it came to the direction of the story and all that stuff. Creative, story. He was the guy, like, in charge of that. Like, he was the one who gave the say. Well, during the time that this expansion was being worked on, he and the other people he worked with that really focused on the story and such, they were focusing on raids in classic vanilla WoW. They were focusing on... hold on, let me remind myself. They were focusing on Blackwing Lair and Encourage, both of the Encourage raids. And of course, you guys know that he does the voice of Nefarian, Chris Metzen. So, they were working on these with the story and such, which they were pretty good. So while he and the story people were working on that, the rest of the team, who... I find this hard to believe. Hold on, let's take care of this boss. Again, I love that. Absolutely love that. It's just a ring. But hold on, let me turn the game sound down a bit, just because I want to make sure I get this across. So, while Metzen and the story portion of the development team were working on those raids for Vanilla WoW, the rest of the team was working on... I think I'm going the wrong way. Yeah. They were working on Burning Crusade, and a huge portion of how that expansion was going to work. Well, apparently, I find this so hard to... And this is why I find it so hard to believe. Apparently, those people knew nothing about the story of Warcraft. They apparently didn't know anything about the story, about Outland, about Illidan. They, this is like, and this is from, I heard this from someone else who's much more knowledgeable for the lore in Warcraft than I am, and so I learned this from him. But apparently they didn't know about the story, and they decided to make Illidan the villain of this expansion. And by the time it was too late, by the time, I guess, Metzen and such found out and such, it was kind of too late. So they had to go with it at that point. And it just boggles my mind that of all the people that worked there, that were working on this expansion, none of them knew a single thing about the story? How does that happen? How is it when you're working on something like this that you know nothing about what it's about? I mean, I guess you could say, well, they were primarily focused on the gameplay and the mechanics and such. But even so, shouldn't you know something about what you're working on in terms of why things are the way they are in the context of the story and the world? I'm so boggled by the idea that some of these people knew absolutely nothing about the story, that they actually did such injustice to his character. Oh, by the way, here's a comma. Now, this is something I didn't know, and this is partly why I'm playing my Demon Hunter, to show you guys, to remind you about the fact that this upcoming boss here, the shade of a comma right there, and a comma, he's a follower. Oh, and by the way, also, if you recall earlier in my Demon Hunter playthrough, the chance where I had to choose between Kane Sunfury and the other guy as my second in command, that actually determines whether or not you get a comma or shade of a comma as a follower. You get one or the other based on who you choose. Now, at the time I did that I was working on that playthrough and I got to that portion, I didn't know about the story of this raid. So I didn't know about a comma and the shade of a comma. But then again, it's also a reminder about how the people who worked on this expansion, without the oversight of Chris Metzen and the rest of the group of people who primarily worked on the story and the lore, how they just completely botched it. But anyway, let's go ahead and continue with this fight here. Illidan's grasp over my tribe is strong. It shall all be over soon, one way or another. Are you ready? My people's future depends on us. Ding! Yeah, there are little, like, things you can hear, sound effects and such. Hold on. Ah! Oh, come on. Ah! Come on. I hope you guys are enjoying that. I hope that brings like a little smile to your face like it does for me. Nothing really special so far. Now, why is he giving me that? Oh, wait, is he gonna respawn? I don't know why it's giving me that timer. But, yeah, it sometimes is, now that I know about the, you know, and you know how apparently this is also backed up? Apparently, and after, this is just, learning about all this is just incredible. Apparently, Metzen was so unhappy with how that group handled Illidan and the story and such, that he actually released a statement that he was not going to allow Wrath of the Lich King to, you know, the next expansion, to be released until he gave his seal of approval when it came to the story. So, while many of us are very unhappy with how they handled things in Burning Crusade in terms of the story, I mean, in terms of like adding features and gameplay and things like that, you know, a lot of people say Burning Crusade is their favorite expansion ever, and I can totally understand why. Oh, I need more rep with the Ash Tongue Deathsworn. Huh. But anyway, despite some of the drawbacks in terms of the story, this actually helped lead us to receiving Wrath of the Lich King and how good its story was and such, because Metzen refused for it to come out until he gave his seal of approval on the story. That's why the story of Wrath was so much better than Crusade, because they did not want to mishandle Arthas and the Lich King the way they mishandled Illidan. Let me see here what the, okay, so we've done Shade of Akama, Terran Gorefiend. I think he is actually right upstairs. No? Maybe, no, Gorefiend's Vigil. Yeah, I think this is the way, this way is towards, where he's supposed to be. Yeah, this raid can get a little complicated in terms of, like, figuring out what pathway you have to go, what stairwell you have to go up in order to get to a certain boss. But, yeah, just, it's incredible learning about that there were people that mishandled the story and such, that didn't know about the source material. They didn't know about the story. So they just assumed that Illidan was an evil villain, that he was some kind of demon lord. Well, of course, he must be the villain then, so we'll just make him the villain. See, the idea was that they were going to have Kil'jaeden actually be the main villain of this expansion. In fact, that's why the last raid for this expansion is not this one, but instead is Sunwell Plateau, which we'll do next, where Kil'jaeden is the final boss. Because that was actually what it was originally supposed to be. where Phil Jaden would be the final villain instead of Illidan, because of the idea of the Burning Legion continuing to try to, make efforts to make havoc in our world and such. Not Illidan. He's against. He's committed to destroying the Legion. That's part of why he's done what he's done. That's part of his character story arc. So it made no sense why he was all of a sudden utilizing members of the Legion here in Outland and in this temple to just become like an evil tyrant. So when you know about the fact that this, or I guess, maybe I shouldn't say it's a fact. Oh.
For me, the wheel of death has spun many times. So much time has passed. I have a lot of catching up to do. Vengeance is mine!
There we go. Just makes me chuckle every time. But just think of, how maybe better in terms of the story and such this expansion could have had or been had Metzen and the story developers actually been involved right from like the beginning and the entire time, because they weren't. They were working on those other raids which had good stories, while the rest of that team worked on, on this, and thus it suffered for it. And the fact that Metzen was so upset at how they handled Illidan's character and his story in this expansion, he knew that if they were going to tackle the Lich King and Arthas in the next one, they had to get it right, because the fan base would never have forgiven Blizzard and the rest of them had they mishandled Arthas and the Lich King's story and character the way they did with Illidan in this one. So, while the idea of facing Illidan is kind of a cool idea, having him just have a complete character change was just, for those of us like myself who are fans of the character and really enjoy his character and such, it was just, it's one of those things that upsets me to see a character that's so good get such a change and is mistreated so badly in terms of how his character was, and then all of a sudden he's completely changed. It's just ridiculous. I don't know what the story is behind that group of people, and whether or not they have like kind of if they got their finger wagged at by Metzen by how badly they messed up, and if they have decided, oh, maybe we should actually know about the source material or not. But it's, fortunately, since then, obviously, with Legion, they did redeem themselves with Illidan, bringing him back, pretty much being a continuation of the character that I know from Warcraft 3, as opposed to what he was in Burning Crusade. Although there is some cool stuff in Legion referring to Burning Crusade, but to give it more context, to help make more sense. A bit, though they do keep some of the stuff that you'll see later on when we actually get to Illidan. But you also think back to Warcraft 3 when Akama met Illidan, when he showed up to help remove Magtheridon from his reign here in Outland, and while Illidan was saying that they would bow to him, he was also Ashtongue Stalkers apparently enough, are ready to get me there. Hold on. That's right. Okay, so there's a couple of interesting, well, one interesting boss. The other one's kind of straightforward, but let's head this way. This is another reason why I wanted to play my Demon Hunter here, because it makes getting around a large raid like this very, much more tolerable because you're able to just get around so much faster. Whee! Fine. Alright. You happy?
I don't
Satisfied?
have a target.
Nope. I guess not. Alright, there we go. Hey, Ooker Dooker, you want to help me out here, buddy? Now, this is a very odd boss. The Reliquary of Souls. I find this a very odd boss. Now apparently a bunch of them are heading over there. I'm not sure why. Oh, hello. Yeah, I don't... By the way, in case you're curious, well, actually, let me wait until I finish this boss before I give you more info. Intermission. I do like these countdowns. Hello? I guess there's multiple faces to this boss. You gotta wait 30 seconds for the next portion to show up, I guess. Just toss my glaive around like a frisbee. Or like a chakram, I guess. I'm Xena, warrior princess. There. Dun, 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 dun. Looks like I didn't get one of the pets that you can get from this thing. Let's see. Torch of the Damned. Ooh. Crown of Empowered Fate. Huh. Ooh. That's a cool looking... A two-handed mace. Ooh, that's cool looking.
I need to target something
as you
first.
can see, this boss can drop a few different pets here. A fragment of suffering, a fragment of desire, or a fragment of anger. Apparently, one of these things can be a pet. I got none. Sad face. Alright, so we now have to head back the other way to go find this Gertrog Bloodboil. And he only drops a couple things, at least for this class. And then we'll be heading upstairs to try and encounter the last few bosses. So what was I saying? What was I gonna get back to? Oh yeah. If you're curious as to who it was I learned all this info from, it's a YouTuber and a streamer who I can tell is much more into the lore than I am. He's actually like read. He actually has in his read. You know, I think he. Well, I don't know if I've actually heard him say this, but it seems to me, based on what his channels have, that he has collected and read pretty much every book that Blizzard has released, not just involving Warcraft, but also involving their other games as well. He is known as the Lore Runner. Yeah, it's actually in his title.
I need a target.
name that he is someone who's very knowledgeable on lore. Since he also does full lore lessons. I've been checking out some of the videos of his streams, including one recently of Warcraft 3, where he will stop from time to time and he'll tell you some extra lore and information in regards to like something you just saw in the game to explain certain things. And it's been fascinating learning a whole bunch of extra information that I did not know about. Like things about Arthas I had no idea about. Things involving Illidan, Tyrande, Malfurion that I didn't know about when I first played Warcraft 3. And now having this extra information, especially in regards to Arthas, my goodness. It makes me see Arthas in a whole new light, hearing the info that he shares with you, that he's learned from various different sources, including all the books, because apparently the books delve into so much more involved in this stuff that I did not know. This is why, if you want to know a lot more about the lore and such, you should read the books. But it's just been really cool learning all this extra stuff, and that's who I learned all this from. So he does streams of these, and he also has them up on his YouTube channel as well, if you want to find out. Alright, let's check out this guy. No, the Horde crushed you. Again, where did you two come from? Shroud of the Final Stand. The Goblins of Temperance. Again, I can always look at these later when I have my characters go to the transmog guy to figure out which transmogs I want. An acidic wound. I'll have to wait until that goes away, I guess. Hold on, I think I may be going the wrong way here. Here we go. Alright. This is where I was trying to go. Alright, so I think I now have to be able to go up here.
Target something first.
Did I... Ooh. Oh. 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 Oh my. Oh my goodness. Well, hello. Hello there. Oh, don't mind me. I'll just, Oh. No. Stay focused. Stay focused. I'll just be passing through, ladies. Oh. Ooh. I guess that explains what's going on here. We got some succubi that are, having a bit of pleasure. So many concubines in here. And some succubi. Dare you whip me? Let's see. Mother Shiraz. She looks kind of familiar. Doesn't she? Matron Mother Malevolence. Oh my, these statues. Is that a bong? Oh my gosh. Woo! It must be hot in here. Priestess of Dementia, Priestess of Delight. So many ladies. Not really sure what the, But hey, I guess if you're gonna portray, or rather, if you're gonna misportray Illidan, by the way, this is increasing my reputation with the Ashtongue Deathsworn. If you're gonna misrepresent Illidan, I guess you go all out, huh?
Business or pleasure? I'm all yours.
Oh, ah. Sorry, but I was. Yeah! Down, down, down. I wish I could... I don't know, I just felt like I could drop a one-liner to respond. Like I was, that guy from CSI Miami. Put my sunglasses on and drop that one-liner at the end and just walk away. Alright, so up ahead, the next boss is the Illidari Council. But you see what I mean about how it seems confusing that there are so many members of the Legion, fell demons and such around this temple, when really that makes no sense. Since Illidan would not have any of them in here. Illidari and Naga? Yeah, sure, but members of the Legion? Nope. But hey, if you have people working on this that know nothing about the character and the story, I guess that's bound to happen. Oh, I went too far. I jumped too far. The Black Temple. Alright, so let's see if these are names I recognize. The Chamber of Command. Varus Darkshadow. High Nethermancer Zerevor. Gathios the Shatterer. And Lady Maland. Hello.
I have better things to do.
Alright. I hate getting these, and they won't be for whatever class I'm playing for. Or I'm playing as at the moment. Hello, Akama. So yeah, he's going to then open the door to let me go up to the temple summit to face Illidan. Again, remember in Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne, when we met Akama for the first time? And he was grateful to Illidan. Well, I don't know. The trailer for this raid also kind of delved into this. How he basically thought he ended up, quote-unquote, realizing that he just traded one evil for an evil tyrant lord dictator for another. Because, of course, that's what Illidan truly was. Ugh. I'm ready. Again, I'm really glad they brought him back in Legion and redeemed him and gave him a much better send-off than what they did here. What they did here was really just insulting to the character. And I'm so glad they redeemed themselves with Legion. This door is all that stands between us and the betrayer. Stand aside, friends. But I will say, there's a very nice little segment and nod to this boss fight in Legion, which I hope to show you guys at some point. The Spirit of Udalo. The Spirit of Olum. I guess if I had done the story missions in Outland, I would probably understand this. What the relevancy of these two characters here with a comma. But again, they changed how the story worked to make it, you know, work with villain being an evil mustache twirling villain. Alright, the Temple Summit.
Be wary, friends. The betrayer meditates in the court just beyond.
Hello, Illidan. It's just like in the cinematic. He's staring at a skull, which of course is supposed to symbolically represent the skull of Gul'dan, which gave him these powers in Warcraft 3, though that's obviously not the actual skull of Gul'dan. At least I'm like 99% sure it's not. I'd be shocked if it was somehow the same one. I will say, he is pretty large in comparison to me, as what, you know, anyway. I'm pretty sure he wasn't that big in Legion. But he's gonna stay there ignoring you until you go to a comma and you say you're ready to begin the encounter. Be wary, friends. The betrayer meditates in the court just beyond. We're ready to face Illidan. Alright, here we go. As much as this pains me, we're gonna do this.
Akama, your duplicity is hardly surprising. I should have slaughtered you and your malformed brethren long ago. We've come to end your reign, Illidan. My people and all of Outland shall be free. Boldly said, but I remain unconvinced. The time has come. The moment is at hand. You are not prepared.
You are not prepared.
I'll deal with these mongrels. Strike down, will not be strike by a rat such as you. Behold the flames of Azeroth.
The flames of Azeroth. All right, Illidan. Let's do this.
Is this it, mortals? Is this all the fury you can muster?
Their fury pales before mine.
Maiev.
We have some unsettled business between us.
Maiev. How is it even possible?
Ah, my long hunt is finally over. Today, justice will be done.
Hold on. The timer is indicating he's going to transform. I want to see him transform. I do find it funny that he's completely ignoring Maiev. Maeva's wailing on him, and he's just ignoring it.
Feel the hatred of
10,000 years. 15 seconds. I really want to see this before we continue. Naisha, probably one of those who died in Frozen Throne.
of the demon within.
Yeah! Oh my goodness. This must be what he looked like in Reign of Chaos when he absorbed the Skull of Gul'dan. Ho 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 ho! So cool, he's so huge! I'm sorry, I'm kind of fanboying out here and... Oh. Okay, note to self. That is an instant death mechanic. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. Wow. You cannot be serious. Oh, thank goodness. Oh. I was about to get really mad that it was gonna force me to have to run the whole way back. Now I understand why that guy was there. He's there where, in case you die, he can transport you straight back to that room. Okay. Okay, so we saw that cool stuff. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly finish him off. But oh my goodness. I was about to really rage there. I was about to get really, really mad that they were gonna make me run through the entire temple all over again. But note to self, or to you as well, no matter how high of a level you are, there are some instant death mechanics with some of these bosses that will take care of you regardless of what your level is. Or what your gear level is. Alright, Illidan. Let's do this once again.
Akama, your duplicity is hardly surprising. I should have slaughtered you and your malformed brethren long ago.
Again, it's not...
To end your reign, Illidan. My people,
The Illidan from Warcraft 3 would not have said that.
Outland shall be free.
As far as I'm concerned, this Illidan is a completely different Illidan than the one from Warcraft 3 and the one from Legion. This is a completely different character.
The moment is at hand. You are not prepared. Deal with this traitor as I will not be. I'll deal with this monster as you. Strike now, friends. Strike and betray. Slaves of Athena.
Alright, come on, Illidan. I saw your other phases. Now let's finish this off. Oh.
Is this it, mortals? Is this all the fury you can muster?
Their fury pales before mine, Illidan. We have some unsettled business between us.
Maiev, how is it even possible?
Ah, my long hunt is finally over. Today, justice
My turn to transform.
It's finished. You are beaten.
You have won. But the Huntress is nothing without the hunt. You are nothing.
He is right. I feel nothing. I am nothing.
Huh.
Farewell,
He got the last laugh.
champions.
The light will bless these dismal halls once again. I swear it.
Ooh. Oh, it's a trinket. So, sadly, I did not get the Warglaves of Azeroth. As I said, it's a very, very difficult drop to obtain. See, Skull of Gul'dan, that sounds like an awesome item. It's a trinket, though, and unless I have enchanting, I'm pretty sure I can't really do it. Besides, it doesn't give you something really cool and unique. It just increases your haste. Boring. The Storm Rage Signet Ring. Memento of Tyrande. The Bulwark of Azeroth. A shield. Oh. That's a cool looking shield. Huh. You always hope that you're going to be able to get that very special, unique drop, but you never know. What's the room right below? Could I have looked up and seen him, like, just kind of kneeling here and looked up and be like, oh, hi, Illidan, I'm on my way up. But that is the Black Temple raid, everyone. Obviously, you heard my mixed feelings about it as we went along. And this is coming from someone who loves Illidan's character, who is a fan of his, who feels that they mistreated his character immensely in this expansion, but I'm really glad they redeemed themselves and him in Legion. So it is a very memorable, cool raid with a very cool drop, which again, I would love to be able to get that, to be able to transmog for my Warglaves for my Demon Hunter, you know, but who knows? Maybe it'll happen someday. Maybe it'll never happen. I don't know. I know some people that they said they've done hundreds of runs of raids like this and they've never gotten it. I know people who said, oh, I got it on my second try. So, you never know. It's the cruel, you know, mistress that we know as random loot drops or random number generator, or RNG as we just like to refer it as. So, as I said, you would have thought that because Illidan was the poster boy of this expansion and he was getting advertised as the main villain, that this would have been the last raid to end it. But then they realized, oh no, wait a minute. It was actually supposed to be Kill Jaden who was actually the main villain of this expansion, not Illidan. At least that's what happened once, at least I think that's what happened once Metzen and the story people like finally got in and said, hey, wait a minute. This is not what's supposed to happen. That's not what was supposed to happen. And they're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, don't you know anything about the story? And they're like, oh, it's a story? I'm exaggerating to make my point, but you get the idea. My point is that there was another raid that was going to actually have killed Jaden come into the fold as the last villain. Sunwell Plateau. And we will be, which would feature Kill Jaden as the last villain. Huh. Eridar Twins, that's interesting if you play a Warlock. And we will be heading there when we come back. Stay tuned.